Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me again. We're in section 9 of DIY technical design. In this section, we're going to be talking about graphics, print, and artwork on your garment or accessory. So you've decided that you want to add a graphic, print, or artwork to your garment or accessory. The first thing you're going to want to do is communicate that with your factory, because they're either going to say that they can complete the action at the factory, or they're going to direct you to a decorator. A decorator is a person who is going to be able to print in one of the different types of printing methods your art or graphic onto your garment, and that will usually happen after the garment has been manufactured in your factory. So it is possible to have your graphic added after the entire production process if that's what you'd like, and in most cases it's going to happen in the US, or if you're in a different country, I'm not quite sure how exactly it would work if you're in the UK or something, but I would imagine that you also have decorators there just like we do in the US. So just talk to your factory and see what their capabilities are, and then you can go from there. The first thing you're going to want to do is create your graphic, art piece, or your print. And you can either hire a designer for this or do it yourself. You're going to do it inside of a vector-based program, usually Illustrator or something similar. And you're going to want to set up your art page actually inside of that vector-based program. What you're going to want to include is your graphic, and you're going to want to make sure that it is expanded. So if it has any text or anything in it, you want to expand those objects, make them into an object so that when the file is transmitted to the factory or decorator, that the text isn't replaced in the program. You're going to want to draw your graphic to scale because you'll be sending the original art file to whoever is decorating the garment. Additionally, you'll want to make sure that you're calling out all of the dimensions of either the graphic or the repeat in your print. Some other things to be sure to call out are the Pantone numbers or whatever color book you're using, and making sure that those match up with what is in your graphic. As well as you'll also want to include an art number so that you can reference that later with the factory or decorator. There is no right format for setting up your art page. You really just want to make sure that you're including all of that information. Usually I also like to include like the company name, and if you have like a designer on your team, including their name, the date, and things like that, just like as you would in your header in your tech pack. That art page that is in your vector-based program is really just for internal use, because you're going to be copying that information and putting it into your tech pack. The decorator or your factory will need the original file in its vector form in order to plug it into their program so that they can print your graphic. That's why you want to make sure that your graphic is expanded and that you also have a clean graphic that doesn't have any sort of measurement callouts or anything on it. To add your art to your tech pack, all you need to do is make an additional blank page, just like our cover page that we talked about in section 1. So just a blank page with your header on it, and you can call this your art page. To add your graphic into your tech pack, you're going to copy and paste it as a PDF into your tech pack. You just want to make sure that you're copying all of the information, including the measurement callouts that we talked about before, the color callouts, and the art number. Be sure that you're updating the rest of the tech pack to reflect the art that you're adding. So if you need to update the sketches, then you'll need to update them on the cover page and in your callouts page and in your colorways page. I like to, in my callouts page, I like to add a little arrow with the art number to the graphic so they know where to find that art information. It's also helpful if you're working with several different graphics so that they know which graphic you're referencing for that style. While you will have the dimensions of your graphic or your repeat in your art page, you'll want to call out the placement of the graphic on your garment or accessory in your POMs. So on your spec sheet, you'll want to create new POMs that follow the same formula that we talked about in the previous sections, and you'll want to call out like where the graphic is from high point shoulder, or if it's on the sleeve, like how far away it is from low point shoulder, and just following that same formula that we talked about before so that all of your POMs are consistent. That way you're not duplicating information and you're keeping all of the information that is possibly going to be graded all in one place on your spec sheet. You may want to grade the placement of your graphic or art or print or whatever it is that you're putting on your garment, because as the garment grows or shrinks, it may need to fall a little bit higher or lower. As always, you can check out the blog post where I actually have some examples of how you can call out your graphics in your spec sheet. If you've decided to use a print on your garment, you'll need to take into consideration the cost of either producing a new fabric or printing a fabric that the factory already has. This gets a little bit more complicated, and I'm not going to go in a ton of detail because I would like to do a series just on how art works and printing methods and all of that, but I am going to give you a general overview. For each piece of the garment, meaning each pattern piece, you'll need to call out if it's matched and the directionality of the print. What I mean by this is, if you can imagine a flannel shirt, when you look at the flannel shirt buttoned up, you can see that the stripes all match up on the front of the garment. That means that it's a matched print. You may have seen in some cases where there's a placket and the print doesn't match up, and maybe it's on the bias, and so that would be a unmatched print, but it would just be that the placket and maybe the pocket or something like that is on the bias. Then there are also like unmatched prints where when the pattern pieces meet up, you're not seeing the print be continuous across the pattern pieces. It's more randomized. You might think of like a camo shirt or something like that, where it doesn't necessarily need to meet up like you would with like a stripe. The directionality of the print also matters. So I have an example in the blog post where it's kind of like a foliage camo print, and the directionality of the print is the same across the whole garment. It's going up the garment, but it is unmatched at the front. And so that would be that the directionality is all matching, but it is not matched across the pattern. You may have a print where it's totally abstract and it really doesn't matter which direction it is, and you just need to call out that information for the factory. In some cases, you may even have a print where it does match up, but you're purposefully unmatching it or making it so that it doesn't match across the pattern pieces. Take into consideration, like I said before, the cost of printing that pattern onto a new piece of fabric or having to develop the fabric from scratch. You'll also want to take into consideration how matching and directionality affects your pattern pieces. Your marker is going to change based on your callouts for directionality and matching. If you need all of your pattern pieces matched, it's much harder for the factory to create your marker so that it's using the fabric in the most efficient way. And so therefore your marker is going to be worse and your fabric wastage is going to increase. When your fabric wastage is larger, your costs are going to go up because you can only fit so many garments onto so much fabric. And so you're ending up having to use more fabric, and the fabric that you're not using is just wasted. You can't use it in any other way. So just take those factors into consideration if you're deciding to use a print. Our final part of this shorter section for DIY technical design is I just wanted to touch on the types of printing methods available. So there are so many printing methods, especially as technology gets more advanced. Every single year there's something new that we didn't have the year before. So I would definitely encourage you to do your own research, even just going out to the mall and seeing different ways that things are being decorated. There's so many creative and unique ways to create your graphics onto your garment or accessory. So go ahead and do some of your own research, but here are some of the most common printing methods. Some of the most common ways for decorating your garment are embroidery, sublimation, screen printing, direct to garment printing, heat transfer vinyl printing, raised rubberized flocked printing. There's a lot of really great sites out there that have really good explanations of what each of those things are. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. Like I said before, I'd like to do a full series on this and go into detail of what each of those mean and when they're appropriate to use. But for now, you can just Google those. Again, I have that whole list on the blog post. You can just Google those, take a look at what they look like and what the different factors are that go into them, and decide for yourself if that's a good option for the garment or accessory that you're producing. All right, guys, that does it for section 9. Like I said last week, that pretty much is all of the meat of this entire series. The last section, section 10, we're just going to be talking about manufacturing. I have a super big surprise. I'm so excited to share with you guys, so definitely check back in for section 10 next Thursday. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share, and I'll see you guys next week for section 10.